Just trying to get set up a little bit better here. I don't know how well you can hear me on the audio that's on the laptop. So I'm going to plug in this little gem because I think it did pretty good the other day whenever I used it. And people actually heard me. So anyway, I wanted to do a Q&A because there are some questions, and I've got like 3. They shouldn't take too long to go through, but there's like 3 questions that, a lot of people will ask you whenever you start mentioning you want to homeschool. And I know I'm running behind. I'm running way behind today. Today has been a doozy. It started with our power going off this morning at 5:15, and I was up trying to get ready to leave the house early for some doctor's appointments I had today. And so it's just been one thing right after another, and almost involving getting rear-ended by a fuel truck on the interstate and everything like that. It's just been fun. It's been real fun. So it's one thing has led to another, and I feel like I'm always running behind, and been doing it all day today. So my last appointment, I was told when you get home, you just need to kind of prop up and sit for a little bit and just relax. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm 26 weeks pregnant, and I'm tired. I'm just tired. So I'm propped up in the bed. Just wanted to, kind of informal quick Q&A. So the first question that I get, a lot of people will ask, and a lot of people will ask you too. I've noticed that whenever you start mentioning that you want to homeschool is, well, are you qualified to do that? Do you have a degree? Are you sure you're qualified to do that? Okay. You know what qualifies you? Being a parent qualifies you. Being a good parent qualifies you. If you love your children and you want your children to do well in life, and grow up to be productive humans and succeed in the things that they do, you're not going to let your kids fail at homeschool. Now, that doesn't mean that you give them all A's every time just because, that didn't work that way at our homeschool. If my kids don't put in the work, they don't get the good grade. It doesn't happen like that. I want to see the work. I want to see you do the work, and I want to see you trying. And that's the main thing is, are you trying? Did you really try? And, you'll know by the effort that they put forth if, if they're doing really good. And if they didn't do the work, you don't give them the grade. So, that's a whole nother thing. But, you want them to succeed. You want them to do well. So you're going to try everything within your power to make them successful at whatever they're doing. So, and that means sometimes providing them extra resources, and that makes you qualified. When you want to see your child do well, that makes you qualified. If you're a good parent, that makes you qualified. Some parents are not qualified. If you don't want to put in the work for homeschool, because it is work, if you don't want to put in the work to make sure that your children are doing the job that they're supposed to be doing their lessons, doing their studying, if you don't want to put in the work to make sure that they're doing that, then you may not want to take the homeschool route. That's probably not going to be for you. And some are not qualified based on state law. State law says that you have to have a high school diploma or equivalent to homeschool your child. That doesn't mean that you can't. That just means that there are other hoops you're going to have to jump through to get to homeschool your child if you don't have a high school diploma or GED. But I go over some of those in the free ebook, and I've got a link in the description. So you are qualified. Being a good parent makes you qualified to homeschool your child. Question number 2. What about socialization? Well, what about it? I mean, a lot of times parents take their kids out of public school because they don't want them socializing with a lot of the kids there. When you homeschool your child, you are more in control of who they come in contact with. And if you have pulled your child from public school because they have started having some behavior problems, or because they've started having some issues at school, or because they've started hanging out with the wrong crowd at school, then you don't want them socializing with who they've chosen to socialize with anyway. So you get to pick and choose. Now, they do get to socialize, and you get to determine where. There are homeschool groups. There's one, a pretty good sized homeschool group here in the county, and they go on field trips and stuff like that. At this point in our homeschool journey, we haven't been able to participate in that just because of time constraints. But there are opportunities available for them to get together with other kids. And most of these other kids are homeschooled. If your kid participates in a youth group at church, they're socializing. They're socializing with kids at church. If they have siblings, they're socializing with their siblings. Maybe they need to learn to get along with their siblings a little bit better. My homeschooled kids could stand to do a little bit more of that. But no child ever learns to be an adult by being around other children. They learn to be an adult from watching other adults. And so, if your child needs more socialization, then get them involved in something else. There's Taekwondo here, in our area. There's Taekwondo. They could take some music lessons. They could take ballet lessons. They could participate in a homeschool group. There's a homeschool group over in Dixon that's not too far from here. And, those are things that they could do that would, have them socializing with other children. And there's classes at the Renaissance Center in Dixon, and that's, those are, towards kids. So, some of those are. So, those are things that they can do. Let's see. Number 3. What if my family is against homeschooling? Well, it's a little bit harder to homeschool if you don't have a support system. And if your child's father doesn't approve of homeschooling, that can be a sticky situation. You might can work out something with your child's father or mother, depending on who has custody and who's wanting to do the homeschooling. You could work out something on a trial basis. They can always go back to public school. If it doesn't work out, if you see it's not working, they can always go back to public school. And, all that is a test to test back in. I know my computer's wobbling, y'all. But all that is a test and they just test back in. And, you might try it for a year. And if it doesn't work, or, it doesn't seem to be a good fit for you and your family, then by all means, test them back in. That doesn't necessarily mean that they will have lost the whole year of school. They still did work. If they still did the work, they still did some learning, and they should be able to test back in just fine. I have personally done that. Whenever we first started homeschooling, I took my kids out. I homeschooled them for a year, and I thought, I just don't think this is the right situation for us. I think they just need to go back. And it was heartbreaking, but I sent them back. They tested in. They tested back in on grade level, the grade level they should have been going into if they were going into homeschool, staying in homeschool, doing just like normal. They didn't get to skip a grade. They didn't get extra smarts over that year, but it didn't dumb them either. It didn't make them dumb either. So, they were able to go back into the grade that they normally would have been in. So they went back in and everything was fine. We did end up having problems. I did end up pulling one of my children and decided from then on that they would all be homeschooled, and they've all been homeschooled ever since. So we did that. But if you have, say grandparents or aunts and uncles that are throwing fits and, oh my gosh, they're not going to be socialized. They're not going to get to go to prom. They won't walk across the stage at graduation. That's not true. That's not necessarily true. There are homeschool groups that do graduations. They do promotion ceremonies. They do proms. They can do pretty much all the things that other kids do. You just have to be in those groups, that do those kind of things. And if that's what you want for your child, you have to actively seek them out and join those. Family that disagrees, that you just don't know what to teach them. That's not necessarily so either. Curriculums are vast. There's different curriculums for different things. There's different types of curriculums. I go over some of that in the book. There's different types of things that you can do with your kids. There are different opportunities that they get from being homeschooled that they wouldn't necessarily get in public school. A lot of public schools, they can only offer your child so much, as far as they can only offer so many subjects. The state mandates what they cover in a year's time, and the teachers' hands are tied. And there's some really good teachers that would really, really love to just go to the moon and teach your kid lots of stuff, but the state says, no, you need to stay right in here. And there's not time, and there's not resources, and so they run into that kind of thing. I'm not totally against public school. I think there are some great teachers out there, and I don't think public school is a bad thing. But I think that if you can homeschool your child and you want to try, then you should try. And if it doesn't work out, then you can always put them in public school. There are some good teachers there. There are some teachers that aren't very good, but there are some really good teachers there. And we've had the opportunity to come in contact with some teachers. A lot of girls that I went to school with became teachers here. And for the most part, the ones that I have had, the privilege of my kids being in their class before we pulled them from the public school system, they're wonderful. And they provided me a support system. Once, my kids were at home, if I had a problem and I couldn't figure it out, they made sure I knew, hey, if you can't figure something out, call me, I'll help you. So, and that meant the world to me, because that wasn't even their job. They were just doing that because they wanted my child to succeed. Unfortunately, we don't have enough of those teachers in the school system. So that's why I homeschool. So, but anyway, your other family members, you could try talking to them about those opportunities. My children have learned coding, marine biology. One of my older daughters took marine biology. She took a zoology class. Let's see, the younger boys did a 6-week shark study. That was loads of fun. They still remember everything that they learned for the most part, and they're still popping off with stuff every once in a while. And I'm like, where'd you learn that? They're like, well, you remember that shark study? Okay, well, there you go. They had fun doing it, and they actually learned something, and they retained it. So we've done studies about monkeys. They've done more outdoor study time. They'll bring something in. We research it. We figure out what it is. They have a nature journal. They draw pictures of it. That's learning. And there's opportunities for student-led learning. And what that is kind of like, a lot of people will call it unschooling. But I don't necessarily unschool. I'm more of an eclectic, where I gather our learning from different areas. We use textbooks. We use reading books. We read just regular historical fiction and things like that, to kind of gather knowledge from. I pull it from wherever they want to read about, whatever they want to read about. A lot of times, we make time for that. We don't just do, English, math, science, and history. That's not what it's about. You can incorporate different things into those English, math, science, and history, but it doesn't always have to be textbook. It doesn't always have to be textbooks, worksheets, and tests. We do test on some things. We do worksheets on some things, and we look at textbooks for some things, but it doesn't have to be that way all the time. And, unless that's what works for you. And that's another thing about homeschooling is, you can be really flexible about what you want to teach, what you want your kids to learn. They can, if you so choose to have them do so, they can have some say-so over what they want to learn. And, it doesn't take a whole lot to get those lessons together. So those are all the questions I have for you today, and I've went over about 15 minutes at this point. So if you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments of the video, and I will be happy to answer those for you. And I plan on trying to do one of these homeschool Q&A Fridays every Friday probably up until August. So for the rest of June and July, I'll do a Q&A Friday, and just give me your questions. If you don't want people to know you're asking those questions and you'd rather remain anonymous because you've got family that's against homeschooling, private message me. I'll get back with you, and I won't mention your name. Just like today, I've not mentioned any names at all. I've just thrown the questions out there and answered them for you. So, and I want to do this for you. I want you to be able to pick up this free ebook. It goes over lots and lots of steps. The 8 steps, not lots and lots. It goes over lots and lots of points in these 8 steps. It goes over all the things that you would need to do to get started. There's a checklist at the end of the book. It tells you exactly what you need to do to start your child, on their homeschooling journey, and talks about different homeschool methods. It talks about different curriculum types. It touches on subjects like, if you're taking care of an aging parent, or you work the night shift, or you work from home. I work from home, and I thought that might be some interesting information to put in there too. A lot of people think they can't homeschool because they work. There's a lot of parents that homeschool and still work. So, there's always that option. And if you have a question and, it's not, something that you really want the world to know, then, that's fine. Just ask me privately. It's okay. I don't mind answering anything. I don't mind helping you at all. That's why I wrote this book. I wanted you to be able to have something for free that could help you get started. If you so choose that, whenever I got started, I wanted to know the steps. I wanted to be able to check my list off as I got through each step, so I didn't miss anything. I didn't want to be in trouble in truancy court before we ever even got started on our homeschool journey. That would have just been horrible for me, and it might have just been enough to see me right over the edge and say, okay, I just can't do this. So, and I don't want you to feel that way. It's not that hard to get your child, enrolled in homeschool. And, a lot of people can be overwhelmed by all the information too there, because there's a lot of information. And if you were to message me and say, hey, how do I start homeschooling my child? Well, I'm going to throw you all this information instead of giving it to you in bite-sized pieces, which is what's in the book. So, you get the book, you get a checklist with the book that will, walk you through each step. And, it'll answer some questions for you, hopefully, and then put you in a better mindset to start homeschooling and make you feel more confident that you've done everything that you need to do. So that's all I have for you for today. I will talk to you next Friday. I'm going to try to shoot for 3 o'clock next Friday. Next Friday, I don't have doctor's appointments, y'all. So hopefully I'll be on time then, or at least closer than I was today. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you next Friday. Bye-bye.